game contains themes of possessiveness, religious trauma, and death. Please play with caution.
Sometimes I sit and I stare at the rain. Isn't rain filled with sorrow? Wonder if I'll see my home again. Will it be dry tomorrow? Time passes softly and I'm a day older, but still I'm living days gone by. Ashes to ashes, the rain is turning colder. Finding tomorrow, the ashes, the rain, and I.
The elevator's warmth was a relief from the cold waters of the Styx, and the bodies inside are thrashing on the water's surface. I know the heat would soon become a fleeting feeling the deeper I went. I clasped a hand over cross around my neck and took a deep breath. The door closed and the elevator began its slow descent down the thick of hell. Each elevator ride had been vastly different from the last in terms of both the elevator itself and the length of the ride down. While the time between the first and second circles only took 30 seconds, the ride between the fourth and fifth took what felt like 30 minutes. Some were smooth and in sleek, modern elevators. Others were. My knees wobbled at the sudden rumble. I leaned my back against the wall. I felt like I was going to be sick. I'd rather not die a second time, let alone in an old elevator. I shut my eyes and hoped my stomach wouldn't give out again. The elevator stopped, and its doors opened. My eyes were not ready for the immediate surge of fog that washed into the elevator like waves. I swatted some of it away as I made my exit from the insecurity of metal. Dirt scattered below my feet with each step. I was in a cemetery shrouded in deep fog, and there was no sign of life, not even the form of trees or wildflowers. All there were tombs, some open and empty, some closed. I called out into the mist, hoping someone would answer. The keepers of each circle have made themselves hard to find. At this point, it was expected. I called out again, my voice vanishing into a rasp as the fog eats my words. There was nothing to do but walk. As I trekked through the dirt between the gravestones, I noticed some of the tombs were on fire, not enough to set dead grass alight, not enough to leave a smell. Eventually, I spotted someone in the distance, dressed in black and red, holding an umbrella. Were they a mourner? What would a mourner be doing in front of a burning tomb? I slowly approached, careful not to do anything too fast to set the stranger off. Are you the one trying to make his way to Satan? They were not facing me, their eyes still cast down into the flaming abyss below us. Are you too scared to respond, Fallen? They turned towards me with a small smile on their face. Both irises were white, but the rest of the eye was drowned in different colors, one red, one black. Over their mouth was a muzzle, like one dog would wear if it would not keep its mouth shut and canines unsheathed. Welcome to Heresy, the Sixth Circle. My name is Dorian, and I am this circle's keeper. Might I know your name, Fallen? My name is Lionel. Lionel? That's a beautiful name. Do you really think so? Of course. What reason would I have to lie to you? I stared at the demon of heresy, like the answer was obvious. Your circle is for false teachers of faith, for those who say falsehoods about the way religion works. I've also taken the blasphemers and liars under my wing. Does it bother you? You've met my friends in limbo, lust, gluttony, greed, and wrath. Sure, the deeper you go, the more horrifying it may appear to be. It's not that bad, truly. Everyone has treated you well so far, correct? I reflected on each keeper I had met before coming down to the Sixth Circle. They've all been nice. Is that surprising? It is. Should I be worried? Worried about what they'll do to you? Huh, of course not. They can't do anything to you here. Huh. I'll ask about the fires, I guess. Why do some of the tombs have fire blazing within them? They're curious. I like that. He watched the fire in a nearby hole, dug deep into the ground, letting out exhaust and smoke which drizzled into the air. Have you ever read Dante? It's a good fan fiction, the poetry he wrote. He wrote something about the heretics who come to my circle, that they would be burning for eternity in tombs. That's not the whole truth, not anymore at least. I did not like their agony, or their screams as they burned, even when I removed their throats. Instead, I burn what I need out of them to add into my archives in the library. In the flames were bones buried deep into the false earth. They looked thinned. Their lies, their false teachings, whatever I do not already know, and then I let their souls wander until they die from a lack of purpose. You collect heresy? Sure, among other things, because why not? Or maybe it's because I like to collect pretty things. But enough of all that. Dorian raised a hand out to the sky, palm up. There was a look of annoyance which briefly comes over his face. I looked up to the sky. It was beginning to grow dark, filled with tones I had never seen before in rain clouds. Is rain coming? Ash. For the first few minutes, the fall is not bad, but it can become worse than a raging blizzard. We should hurry back to the library. I'll return later to observe the fires. He extended his hand towards me. Here, the umbrella will shield you from the storm until we get you to shelter. I could taste it in the air. The bitter remains of smoke had already made home on my tongue. I will take his hand. I grabbed for the hand he was reaching with. It was cold, but I could not tell if it was from the fabric of his gloves or the temperature of his being. Good choice, Lionel. It shouldn't be more than 10 minutes. Don't let go. And the two of us walked through fog and past uncovered graves whose fires ablazed despite the coming storm. Dorian looked down at me every so often as we walked, but he barely said a word. Was he judging me? Or was he just making sure I was okay? I don't know. The fog parted as falling ash began to take its place. I learned about Pompeii when I was a child. I imagined that the citizens of that ancient city witnessing this fall of ash. What would they have thought if they were in my position, unafraid and protected, certain of incoming shelter? Would they have found it beautiful? I would never get those answers. Birds flew above us. I could not see them, but I could hear their calls as they shifted through the ash. Once the fog started shooting upwards, as if to battle the incoming cinders, I spotted a large building. It reminded me of the cathedrals in big cities and tucked into countrysides. You're a demon like the others, right? That is correct. Then how come there's a building in a circle of hell that is themed like a Catholic cathedral? You might call it blasphemous, and I suppose it is, but it's because I've always enjoyed Catholic aesthetics, whether it be in their art or their architecture. So I can't say I love what they have to say. That's understandable. It's not up to me or anyone else to change your beliefs. That's right. People don't like for their opinions to be changed. But some of us are masters of their silver tongue. Some may be easily swayed because they have no opinions of their own, and once they gain this opinion, it's permanent. Others may be like vampires who are weak to the silver, and they might turn away. It's why some rooms have become echo chambers. It's why I've read scripture and holy books from every religion ever uttered, and yet none stick with me. But I can appreciate aspects of most of them. Does that make sense? I guess so. Now, shall we go in? As we walked on the steps, the front door opened for us. From it rolled in a dusty aroma, not like the dust and ash of the graves, but instead like old books and wood. Something about it was comforting, much more comforting than the storm, with its clouds putting pressure on the air and my lungs. As soon as we entered, the door shut behind us. I was greeted to an extravagant room lined with books on either side. Above me sat beautiful paintings of mystical creatures sitting among dead forests and empty beaches. Dorian placed his umbrella in a holder next to the door. There were 3 others clumped together, all from different historical eras. You won't be able to go out until the storm passes. Why not? It'll obscure where the elevator is. Hard to see, hard to navigate. And it could bury you. It's best to wait it out. How long could it take? I don't know, but you're not in a hurry, right? A few hours or even days is nothing compared to the rest of eternity. Are you cold? I can make you tea, and you can tell me what brings you down here. There was nothing else to be done. Maybe I'll give you a tour, Lionel. Sure. All right. Hurry along, then. Dorian reached a hand out to me once more. You might wander off and get lost. There are lots of things in my library of lies that could draw even the purest of souls in. I will take his hand, because I want to take his hand. Dorian is great. They are absolutely scrumdiddlyumptious. All right, I grabbed for Dorian's hand. Who knew what was lurking in the depths of Heresy's walls? That's quite cute of you, darling Fallen. You've done it twice now. Are you scared or something? Or are you trying to warm up to me? Well, you don't like lies. Wait, do you like lies or do you not like them? I'm not sure where you stand on lies. I know you collect them. But if I were to be completely honest with you, I am trying to get all hot and bothered with you, Dorian. Oh, yes. Come on, Lionel. You can tell me anything. Is he serious? I trust you, I guess. Despite what I am, you trust me. I feel that if you wanted to kill me, you would have tried by now, but you've been only kind to me in the ash. Dorian smiled. You're so innocent. It's cute. Is this gonna lead me to my death? I mean, I'm dead already, but... We walked past statues, books, globes, and artifacts. He explained that most of the books were of falsehoods, realities which people thought were real but never truly existed. Beliefs that were closer to fiction than fact. Some of them, labeled with pretty black and gold spines, were of truths, of the beauties that exist in the world. I asked why he, as Heresy, kept those. He didn't give me a straight answer. He said there was value in this knowledge. What was valuable about lies? And any time I wanted to reach for something, Dorian swatted my hand away. No matter how much you preach about sin. Shiny objects tempt you, huh? Yes, and you are very shiny. You are very tempting indeed. I wonder how old the globes were and what countries they showed. I wondered where he got them. I wondered if any of these books had been read by anyone other than Dorian himself. But why did I care? I wanted to leave eventually. I had to get down to the 9th circle. After what felt like 20 minutes worth of walking, Dorian stopped in an unassuming door. He let go of my hand and grabbed for the knob. This is one of my many office spaces. I never get to use them, only for the sparse company. He opened it and bowed, a free hand extended into the room. I followed his lead and walked in. Oh my god, what a library! The door shut behind us and Dorian let out a sigh of relief. It was a room with 2 levels. 3 of the 4 walls were lined with books. The only light came from the window parallel to the entry door. Whatever lurked inside, I was unable to see, for the ash was too saturated. What's the view out there? From here, distant fires and mist. I turned back to Dorian with an involuntary sigh. Feel free to sit while I make tea. Do you have a preference on flavors? I prefer floral ones, but I'll do anything for you, Lionel. As long as I have it, of course. I didn't want him to have to go all the way to make something to appease me. I'll just have what you are having. Splendid. He walked over to a small break room in the shelves. I stared at the table in front of me with 2 chairs and papers scattered about it. You can move those to the side, you know? I don't mind. I nodded and started to stack the papers. Most were unopened letters and archival notes, but one letter, half out of its page, with a drawing attached, intrigued me. I'm gonna read the letter. I took the papers out. There was one main letter of normal size that was accompanied by smaller pieces, each with a beautiful sketch done in pen. Also, I'm just gonna say this outright, okay? I know that in video games, I'm very, very curious, okay? I would straight up read the things that would likely kill me. Or, I just want to, find out a little more about the lore. But, in real life, it's likely I would, not even check it out. I would just be, looking at everything else. But, hey, that's just my brain talking, so, whatever. They look to be of holy beings? Interesting. I read the paper attached, which was written in cursive and red ink. Dorian, I've sent some thumbnail ideas for the commission for the 14th wing. Let me know what you think. I'm really excited to start working on these. Any work you give is much a pleasure. Aaron? Oh my god, it was worth it. It was worth reading the letter. Oh god, I don't care if I die right now. Any reference to Aaron, in any video games, is just, I love it. I hadn't seen any art pieces in the halls. Is there a part of the library that has some? I placed the letter's contents back in their envelope and sat down. I saw you read that. Sorry. No, it's alright. I'm sure you're curious. Who's it from? A demon friend of mine. They're a painter. I've tried picking up the medium, but it just isn't for me. I try to categorize the wings of my collection. Sometimes it's by century, sometimes it's by region. And I like to decorate them. I keep more than just books. There are artifacts as well. Well, I will ask to see the collection later. Why not? May I see the other wings? If the storm has not let up before we are done here, then yes. I'll admit, I am happy that you're interested in what I have. It's history. Even if it's weird history. I mean, weird history is the best kind of history, honestly saying. The history of lies and falsehoods. Also, if you guys have an interesting history fact for me, do leave it in the comments below. I would love to read it. That's the thing about a lie. They'll all be unraveled by the end. He returned with 2 cups. One was a plain straw in a cup, which I assumed was for him. The other was a beautiful teacup with a gold handle and deep blue flowers painted like the night sky. Dorian placed the fancy cup in front of me, and his on the other side. Finally, he sat down and twirled some of his hair around his finger. I hope you enjoy it. There's blueberries, hibiscus, cherries, and some other fruits. That sounds lovely. Holy heck. I'm sure it'll pick you up in the darkness down here. At least. I didn't take you for fruity tea first. Oh my god, like, how can you look at Dorian and not think he's fruity? Oh god, I'm gonna go for fruity tea. Fruity tea. Really? Is it because I'm so gloomy? I dress in black with a spinal cord on my boot's heel. That's a spine? Is it because of the desolation? Even the ash storm, I've made my own light. I prefer fruity tea over the better stuff. He placed the straw between the bars of his nozzle so he could take a sip. It was scorching hot, and he was drinking it immediately? So let's start this over, Lionel. Dorian was cut off by a sound hitting the window nearby. The two of us turned to find the source. Oh, it's a bird! With black feathers that contrasted against the light dust of the outside storm. It stared at me for a few seconds, flapping its wings to keep its place. And before I could process it, the bird flew off into the chaos. I noticed them earlier. Why do you have birds? I don't know, but they don't bother me. I'll let them fly about. Some of them nest on the spires. Blackbirds are my favorite animal. He cleared his throat and resumed the conversation. You've recently died, and you were sent to Limbo, the first circle. Now you want to go through each circle until you reach Satan at the ninth. You hope to state your case and be allowed into the heavens. That's correct. I mean, it's not canon. I mean, heck, the only reason why I would try to go down the ninth circle is to flirt with all the demons on the way down there. So, hey, that's a lie. That's a lie. Now, do you know why you were brought down to hell? I don't. Probably because I tried flirting with anything that moves, honestly. I've been a devotee to the Lord all my life. So you're going down to visit him without knowing what you've done wrong. I believe it's a mistake, that I was mistaken for someone else. That sounds like someone who has done more than a goddamn mistake. Like, okay, the main character seems like someone who is so freaking pious. All right, that's probably the case. Okay, I'm just grasping at air at this point. But he seems like someone who's so pious that they don't even realize that they've done like so many messed up things in their lives. Like, that's what I'm getting from this line here. Really now? That's what I think. Especially because everyone has been so kind to me as I've traveled down. Probably because you're a heck of a sinner. Like, let's be honest here. If it's not exactly a mistake, then it's a test. He said nothing, tapping his fingers instead on the cup in his hand. We should start from the beginning then, shouldn't we? We can figure out where you might have messed up if we talk about you. When did you die? January 1st. On the solemnity of Mary, Mother of God. Yeah, I was on my way to Mass. That's unfortunate. And how did you die, Lionel? I fell. Before going to the church, someone asked me to help with something on the roof. We had been doing renovations, you see, and we had some birds that began to nest on the steeple. Someone asked me to climb up one of the ladders and whisk the birds away. It would have been bad for them and bad for us. Of course. But as I climbed up the ladder, I must have slipped on the last step. I think one of the birds flew out and startled me. So I fell off and onto my back. I could hear nothing, and all I could feel was blood. It felt like it was everywhere, squirting against my neck, dripping down my forehead, and clustering in my eyes. My body felt wrong, bent in every wrong angle and shape. I looked up and watched the sky until my vision went dark. It was like watching a solar eclipse. And then I ended up here. Not in your circle, obviously. Do you regret dying, Fallen? He had called me that before, and only now did I find it odd. I didn't tell Dorian my cause of death before this. I will answer his question. It was his choice to bring me to heaven, and then this is his test. His choice. Everything is, isn't it? I think this is why I like you so much. Huh? You're so innocent, so naive. You think a god would kill you violently and then send you down to what he considers the pits, the tombs, the depths? That he would abandon you like this? I told you, it's a test for entry into the heavens. Revelations 21 verse 4. And God shall wipe away all tears from their eyes. And there shall be no more death, neither sorrow nor crying, neither shall there be any more pain. For the former things are passed away. Conflict is what drives the human species, is what drives innovation and love. If you had an eternity in paradise, would you do anything? Think about any desires you had as a mortal, all of those things you wished to do before you died. Travel, fall in love, make something worth remembering, learn something new, leave an impact. I agree. Heaven might be boring, it might be scary. I don't know. At the end of the day, no matter how much we read, how much we fall prey, we don't really know. That is true. Do you ever wonder if your pastor's interpretation, or maybe your own, of the holy text could be wrong? It's like an English class. There's an interpretation that your professor may project. There's an interpretation which stems from context of the time and place which it was written. There's an interpretation directly from the author. Then there's your interpretation, oh darling fallen. Dorian, can I ask you something? You can ask me anything. You push this idea that heaven is a boring place. Is that the same for hell or someone who is not suffering? Only the truly wicked suffer, but it takes up too many resources to make an exponential amount of souls suffer for eternity. We may have eternity, but we like to make things quick. That's not exactly what I'm trying to ask. Are you bored down here? Bored? I wouldn't say so. I have lots of work to do. Bodies to burn, people to release, books to catalog. Sometimes they allow me to look upon the human world and watch the living before they fall into the circles. I cut him off. Are you lonely? Huh? Haven't seen anyone else here except for you. You must get lonely with no one to talk to. He did not respond for a few moments. He may have seemed like he was looking at me, but instead he was looking through me. I suppose I do get lonely. I have friends, other demons mostly, who come to visit and assist. But they leave. They have to. They have other obligations, and they have themselves to worry about. I just wish that... He swallowed and closed his eyes. Never mind. We have more pressing things to worry about. Your locket. Huh? He held his hand out to me. Let me see it. I nearly forgotten the new piece of jewelry which sat loosely around my neck after I tried prying it open to no avail in the second circle. Why? You know how people will keep the portraits and memories of the love tucked in the locket close to their heart, so they do not forget what is most important to them? It's similar to that, only it's with your memories. I unhooked the silver clasp sitting at the back of my neck and handed it to him. He was careful not to touch the clasp. Why? The keepers of those circles offered no response when I asked about its purpose. Dorian stood up and walked to the row of books behind him. Each looked old, other than any church that I had ever visited. It'll be easier to parse through if we just... He picked up the fifth book from the left, which had a faded label with 13 written in purple. This one should work. Dorian began flipping through the pages, being gentle with each one. Every so often, he pushed his glasses up with his index finger. What are you doing? I'm trying to find an empty page. There we go. He opened a page towards the end of the book. It was decorated in a border of twigs and birds, painted in neutral matte colors. The most peculiar part was the oval-shaped hole in the middle of the page. Dorian placed the book on the table. He then placed the locket in the hole. It fit perfectly. I looked at his face, admiring the way his eyebrows knit and lips parted in concentration. We then closed that, and all we do now is wait. He used the chain of the locket as a bookmark before he closed the book shut. What does that do? It'll write out your life story for me, all on one page. We just need to give it a few more minutes. Can I interest you in more tea? I think I'm alright. Thank you. Let me finish this cup. Alright. Dorian stood up, taking his cup and returning to the corner where he had originally made the tea. I looked down at the liquid swirling in my cup. When I glanced back up, Dorian was staring at me with a soft expression on his face. Dorian? Huh? Oh, apologies. He turned away from me and began rummaging around in the drawers. Ask about Dorian himself. Can I ask you some questions? I'm an open book, Lionel. When did you die? Are you lonely? Are you allowed to leave? I guess I'll ask him if he's lonely again. You asked this earlier. I know. Why? Because I want to fix that. He stopped what he was doing. A heavy sigh ripped from his throat, and he refused to look at me. And how could you fix that? By staying here, with you. You don't want to do that, Lionel. Here in Heresy, it's cold, and you would have to put up with me for eternity. It's not very enjoyable. It's not enjoyable because you've never had anyone to enjoy it with. It seemed he considered what I said. His head hung, presumably to look at his hands. We were interrupted by birds chirping. Dorian walked over to me and gently placed his hand on the book, tracing the corner stitching with his finger. It's ready. Dorian opened the book and picked it up, hiding most of his face behind the pages. Every so often, he looked back up to me, eyes full of either delight or curiosity. He'd nod, as if to confirm some unsaid suspicion. I glanced to the window. The storm seemed to be still raging with no end in sight. Have you found anything yet? I think so. It's something overarching, but I can pull out a specific moment. Do you remember that nearby church you volunteered to work with to serve food for those who were underprivileged? Yeah, it was a cold day that January. I underdressed and I was shivering. There were birds and squirrels outside, peering in on us through the church's windows. They start with a sermon before we were allowed to serve food. So they brought up the story of the feeding of the 5,000. Then he commanded the multitudes to sit down on the grass. And he took the 5 loaves and 2 fish and looked up to the heaven. He blessed and broke and gave the loaves to the disciples. And the disciples gave to the multitudes, 20. So they all ate and were filled. And they took up 12 baskets full of fragments that remained. Now, those who had eaten were about 5,000 men, besides women and children. Matthew 14, verse 19 to 21. I think I laughed at that. Really? Because he's summoning an endless amount of bread, basically. How is that possible? I understood what the passage was saying, to make use of what you have. But I didn't take it literally. There's lots of absurdities in the text. Silly things, annoying things, things that don't make sense. It's like how we think of Greek and Roman mythology nowadays. Less that it really happened, more like a fable. I think of Ambrose Bierce in a more modern context. Do you take a lot of what's in your text as lessons rather than fact? Yeah, so do I. And I think that's what the issue is. You don't take it literally, and that's a heresy. Before I could have any sort of reaction, Dorian continued. It's unfair, isn't it? To be curious, to question what you're reading or what you're being told. To think some things are too big, too fantastic for the mediocre world you live in. And to be punished in the end for questioning someone. Lucifer fell because he questioned God. What's to say he isn't feeling the same way you do right now? Someone who has been a devout, loyal follower, despite never seeing his face. That's such an innocent sin, though, isn't it? It's human nature. That's part of why we must forgive and repent, because we're flawed. But why is that a bad thing? No one should expect someone as wonderful as you to be perfect all the time, because you're perfect in your own right. What are you saying? I couldn't take it anymore. I come to the mortal world as a bird to observe those following a faith I came to detest. That's the first time I saw you. I don't know what it was about you, but you caught my eye in a way no other soul ever has. And so, every so often, I visit you as a raven outside your window, whether it be in a holy place or in the confines of your own home. I know your beliefs, and I know you, and you were fantastic. But I knew you would have to come down here eventually, because you were so uniquely you. Frankly, I was selfish. I could have waited for you to die much, much later. But I wanted to see you now. And I thought that if you lived your whole life only to be sent to hell for being human, it would be worse on you. So I killed you. I was the bird that flew out of the spire and caused you to fall. I didn't mean for you to die like that. But that's how it happened. And you came down here to me after I asked everyone above to be nice to you, just so you wouldn't die to their hunger. And here you are, looking as beautiful as you've ever been. And I haven't been able to stop looking at you ever since. I've kept my composure, but I want to be with you like this, forever. Dorian hugged me, arms tight around my body. No words were able to come from my mouth. I couldn't process anything. Was I in shock? Disbelief? Was I feeling the same, or was I feeling differently? How had he done all of this? Just for someone like me? I felt his gloved hand wipe at a liquid trailing down my face. Was I crying? He pressed his forehead against mine, his head tilted slightly due to the muzzle forced onto his visage. His pinky finger found its way around mine, holding onto it tightly. It's okay, Lionel. You don't have to say anything. I already know that you feel the same way I do, and you want to stay. And even if you don't, we have an eternity to figure it out. He smiled warmly, perhaps for the first time since we met in Heresy's circle. And whether by compulsion or true feelings, I couldn't help but smile as well. I love you, Lionel. Ending 4. A confession of personal sin can be a loving release. Oh my god. Oh god, Cat! Cats get why do you have to make such good games? God, it was beautiful. And I think like this is like the first time I've seen a truly fluffy ending from you, and gosh, I love it. But anyway, thank you guys so much for watching. I really hope you guys enjoyed this. If you guys want to play this game for yourself, link to the game will be in the description below. There are several endings to this. Like heck, I really encourage you guys to play it yourselves. But anyway, thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you all have a lovely rest of the day, and I'll be seeing you in the next video. This is Lionel, signing off. Ciao.